And raise the Stanley Cup at home is the best feeling you'll have in sports.
There's nothing like the Stanley Cup.
Castroneves has won the Indianapolis.
The Great White Shark. 400 million years of evolution, creating the consummate hunting machine. What if this perfect predator comes for you? You're about to see actual footage of a shark attack as it happened to 19-year-old Heather Boswell in the South Pacific. What if you were Heather Boswell? Would you know how to escape?
Oh my God.
Get ready, because it's about to happen to you. You've become Heather. The choices you make in the next 3 minutes will determine if you live or die.
I was swimming around, and there were only about 10 people in the water. I was a little bit away from the group because I had been swimming a while and I was tired, and I was actually gonna go in, and I decided, oh, I'll just hang out for a few more minutes.
Suddenly, a shark fin appears at the surface. Everyone desperately swims toward the boat, but Heather is too far away. Question number 1. A shark fin breaks the surface near you. Should you swim away, play dead, or stare it down?
Oh my God.
In desperation, Heather furiously tries to swim away, but to her horror, she feels the shark's jaws close on her leg. A shark is attacking you. Should you grab its gills, punch it in the snout, or gouge the eye? The shark tears at Heather's leg. She's afraid if she fights back, it'll hurt her even more. The shark has a firm hold on Heather as people on the boat grab onto her arm, frantically trying to pull her in. They're in a tug of war with the shark, but the shark wins.
It took her leg off. It took it off. It's gone. Oh my God.
They save her life, but she's lost her leg. Let's stop the tape now and go back to the questions to see if you answered correctly. In question 1, we asked, what should you do if a shark fin breaks the surface near you? Should you swim away, play dead, or stare it down? The correct answer is stare the shark down.
Now, when you're in the water with a large predaceous shark like a great white, your instinct might be to try to swim away, make a break for it. This is the very worst thing you could possibly do. Like any predator, the shark will instinctively give chase. In fact, it may try to prevent you from getting away by grabbing you with its teeth. When faced with a great white shark that has its attention squarely focused on you, your best option is to orient yourself toward the animal and try to stare it down. Establish firm eye contact with it. You don't want to play dead at the surface. This simply confuses the shark. The sharks have all the senses we have, plus a few extra. One of their special senses is the ability to detect the minute electrical field of living things. So if you play dead, the shark can sense that you're not dead, but if you're not moving, you're not behaving the way it expects dead things to behave. This could in fact stimulate a curiosity in the shark, and it will investigate you simply by biting you to see what you do.
Now let's see if you got the second question right. A shark is attacking you. Should you grab its gills, punch it in the snout, or gouge it in the eye? The answer is gouge it in the eye.
If a great white actually has you in its mouth, the best course of action is to gouge it in the eyes. You don't want to try to rip its gills. For one thing, if it's a very large white shark, those gills are 4, maybe 5 feet away. You probably couldn't reach them anyway. By hitting the shark, you may stimulate a retaliatory strike. We know from studies of white shark attacks that very often, if the victim struck the shark was more likely, not less likely, to come back and hit again. So if you are actually in the white shark's jaws, the thing to do is to gouge its eyes. But you don't want to use your fingers, you want to use your thumb. It's much stronger. Push it in as hard as you can. Even if you feel the eyeball sort of squidge a little bit, don't let that worry about it. All bets are off. You're on the menu and you want to get off it.
Today, Heather walks with a prosthetic leg. Despite her terrifying ordeal, she holds no grudge against sharks.
they're just, you know, living, doing what they do, and I was in their space, so I'm not afraid of sharks.
But what if the deadly jaws belong to man's best friend?
The dogs arrived. They jumped on me and started biting me, and I yelled, "Help! Help!"
You're looking at real video of 16-year-old Borema Zubre being viciously attacked by 2 Rottweilers. For Borema, who lives outside of Paris, his day started with a soccer game with his buddies. On his way home, Borema is about to find himself fighting to survive. Would you know what to do? Walking home after the game, you hear a noise behind you. Looking back over your shoulder, you see 2 growling 100-pound Rottweilers stalking you. Question number 1. An aggressive dog is coming toward you. What do? Look it in the eyes and back away. Throw something to distract it. Or stand still until it goes away. You decide to outrun the dogs, but you're no match for their speed. They lunge at you. The dogs bite with deadly pressure, up to 1,200 pounds per square inch. A dog is attacking you, and you've been knocked to the ground. Do you fight back, shout firmly off, or curl into a ball and cover your neck? Borema tries to fight back, but it's only when the owner intervenes that the dogs are captured. It takes dozens of stitches to close the hundreds of lacerations and punctures in Borema's arms, legs, and back. Let's go back now and see if you answered the questions correctly. Question number 1. An aggressive dog is coming toward you. What do? The correct answer is stand still until it goes away.
When faced with an obviously aggressive, snarling dog, the most appropriate action is to avert your eyes and remain as still as you possibly can. Eventually, the dog will simply get bored with you and wander off. Looking the dog directly in the eyes and trying to stare it down is precisely the wrong thing to do. In the social hierarchy of dogs, what you're doing by establishing eye contact is challenging its position in the pack. And it's very likely that this could result in an attack.
In the next question, we asked you, if the dog attacks you and you get knocked to the ground, how do you defend yourself? The correct answer is curl into a ball and cover your neck.
If a dog actively launches an attack against you, the correct response would be to curl into a ball, sort of assume a fetal position and protect your face and your neck. Dogs instinctively try to disable their prey by attacking these vulnerable areas. By covering the face in particular, this may eliminate visual cues that could stimulate the attack to continue. Either fighting back or shouting are 2 of the worst things you could possibly do. Studies of the brains of carnivorous mammals have shown that during stalking, chasing, and bringing down prey, the brain releases chemicals that stimulate centers that are associated with excitement and even play. Predation is fun for these animals. So by shouting or fighting back, you could actually stimulate the dog into increasing the ferocity of its attack.
Borema knows the only thing that saved his life is his size. If he was smaller, he knows he never would have survived the ferocious attack.
Those dogs should be shot, because if it wasn't me, if it was a child, it would be the end.
What if the threat you face has fangs? You are hiking in the forest. Your vehicle is miles behind you. You are oblivious to the danger that lurks right nearby. An hour into your hike, you grab onto a tree for balance. You've just been bitten by a rattler, and you are miles away from a hospital. How do you keep the poison from spreading? Do you tie a tourniquet above the wound and make a small incision below to release the poison? Suck out as much of the poison as you can with your mouth. Or allow the wound to bleed and hike back slowly to your car. The answer is, allow the wound to bleed and try to hike back.
If you've been bitten by a rattlesnake, the temptation might be to do something. Obviously, this is a serious situation. Surprisingly, the correct answer is to simply let the wound bleed naturally out and slowly but purposely make your way back to your vehicle or camp. If improperly used, a tourniquet can actually be more dangerous than the snake bite itself. Tying a tourniquet between the snake bite and the heart can actually cause the distal part of the body to lose oxygen supply to the point where it can actually kill the tissue. The cut and suck method, immortalized in so many Western movies, can create a lot of problems. Firstly, by using the knife to cut the wound, you can actually push some of the venom deeper into the wound and possibly into a larger blood vessel, which will speed the spread of the toxin. Struggling to get the snake-bitten part of your anatomy to where you can suck the poison out can actually increase your heart rate, and this is exactly what you don't want to do because this will increase the rate of spread of the venom through your body.
After the break, what if you face the deadliest predator, man? What if you're a hostage and the gunmen demand the impossible?
Body armor and a plane.
The Extreme Survival Quiz is about to put you to the test.
I want it now!
It happened in Northern California and was caught on tape as gun-toting terrorists let loose and the bullets begin to fly. It began 9 hours earlier in this electronics store. It seems like it's going to be business as usual for manager Kurt Warburton until...
Get back in! Everyone get down! Get down!
I dialed 911, and all I had enough time for was to say, there's a man in the store with a gun, there's a man in the store with a gun.
In seconds, Kurt's normal workday turns into his worst nightmare. Would you know what to do if it happened to you?
Don't move! Get on your knees!
The gunmen are members of an Asian youth gang who want passage back to Southeast Asia. Mission impossible.
Don't move!
Police and SWAT teams surround the outside. Inside, you and 40 others are trapped. You've been taken hostage. How can you best protect yourself? Do you humanize yourself? Talk about your family, your children? Do nothing to draw attention to yourself? Or try to slip away unnoticed? Kurt decides to humanize himself by volunteering to negotiate for the gunman.
Listen, they want 4, man. I said 4. 4 bulletproof vests.
A police sergeant is ordered to strip down and make the delivery.
Said he wanted 4 vests. Said he only had one. The other ones will come from the office. Said we only had one.
Body armor and a plane. I don't know. I want it now!
Then he wanted full body armor. We don't have such a thing. There is no such a thing.
Kurt continues to help with the negotiations, and twice hostages are released. A total of 7 make it out safely. By nightfall, you realize things are escalating out of control.
Gunmen slowly became more and more irate, and more threatening.
They shoot one of their hostages in the leg and send him out with a demand for a helicopter and another bulletproof vest. Police respond by placing a vest in front of the doorway. The gunmen then tie a rope to one of their hostages to retrieve the vest. They send Kurt Warburton to open the door, but as a gunman steps forward, he exposes himself to police. The police open fire. Bullets are flying and police are moving in. Should you drop to the floor, keep your head covered, disarm the gunman, or relocate yourself to another part of the room? The disintegrating glass reveals a terrifying fact. The sharpshooter missed his target. Kurt makes a snap decision to run as the gunman goes on a killing spree. Dozens of police storm the store. They have to take down the gunman before more innocent people are killed. At the end of the 9-hour ordeal, 3 hostages have been murdered. 9 are hospitalized. 3 of the 4 gunmen are dead. Let's stop the tape now and go back to the questions to see if you answered correctly. In question 1, we asked you, how can you best protect yourself? The answer to this question is, humanize yourself, talk about your family, children, or, depending on the situation, do nothing to draw attention to yourself.
hostage situation is a very fluid and dynamic situation. Humanizing yourself with the hostage takers could be a good idea, could be a bad idea. It depends on what their cause is. Why are they doing this? If you talk to them about your personal experience and your personal life, that might upset them further than just remaining anonymous and going with the program. Hostage takers objectify their captives to make it easier to shoot them if they need to. So your best bet is to humanize yourself, but only if you're spoken to. If they don't want to talk, respond calmly and politely. Try not to appear afraid. If you talk back to them in any way, you could set yourself up to be their first victim.
Kurt did the right thing in this case. However, every situation is different, and there is no one right or wrong answer.
I was almost lucky in the sense that, you know, I don't think they were going to shoot the messenger. And in that way, you know, for a long time, I felt a little guilty because all the other hostages didn't have that opportunity.
Now let's see how you did on the next question. Bullets are beginning to fly. Police are moving in. What should you do? The correct answer is either drop to the floor, keep your head covered, or relocate yourself to another part of the room.
Once the bullets start flying, it's important that you move from your original location, even if it's just moving 10 feet so the hostage taker can't get a beat on you. He's been used to you sitting somewhere for maybe the last hour. If you even move 10 feet, he might not know where you're at. If you have the opportunity to escape, do so with your hands up in the air and prepared to be assumed that you are one of the hostage takers. And if you're in the line of fire, get out of the line of fire.
Obviously, Kurt did not raise his hands as he escaped. Every situation is different. He used his own judgment and was extremely fortunate not to get shot.
It does change you. You know, you want to, the value of life becomes much more apparent and much more deep.
Every hour of every business day in the United States, at least 3 banks are being robbed. What if you're in a bank making a withdrawal and someone threatens to deposit a bullet into your head? It happened in Minneapolis to Greg Bartman as he stopped to deposit his wife's paycheck.
I was just standing in line. I heard the door behind me open, and I could hear the footsteps. I knew what was happening. I just figured that it was another customer trying to beat closing time at the bank.
The next thing he knew...
Refreeze, it's a robbery.
You're about to see what it's like to look down the barrel of a gun. What would you do if this were you?
I feel the barrel of this gun jam into the back of my head. I look at the tellers, and I can tell by the looks on their faces that this is something serious.
A robber puts a gun to your head. Should you attempt to identify the robber, avert your eyes and comply, or look for an opportunity to disarm the gunman? At first, Greg averts his eyes and complies, but then...
The gun is at the side of my head, and I slowly turn to look at it, and I realize that it looks real, but I know that everything else tells me that it's fake.
The gun has a plastic feel to it, and as the gunman's hand shakes, Greg thinks he hears a loose plastic piece rattling inside.
I stand there for a little bit, and I made my decision to strike the bank robber.
Greg was very lucky. Based on his calculated risk, he foiled the robbery, but did he make the right decision? Let's go back now and see how you did. You are in a bank. A robber puts a gun to your head. What should you do? The answer is avert your eyes and comply.
If you're in a bank during a bank robbery, remember, you have to stay calm. Avert your eyes from the bank robber, but listen to what they're telling you to do and comply. Don't attempt to disarm the robbers. That's a bad idea. You'll not only put yourself at great risk, but everyone else in the bank as well.
I guess I didn't have time to feel scared, and this all happened within a half a minute. That's a half minute that I'll remember the rest of my life.
When we return, what if the heat in your face isn't a robber's gun, but is the lethal force of the blazing sun?
Extreme Survival Quiz is brought to you in part by every Hyundai is backed by America's Best Warranty, and it's only...
Survival is a battle against Mother Nature, and an ordinary hike can turn deadly. Best friends Eddie Wamhoff and Kevin Patterson are about to find this out the hard way. They think their early morning hike in the desert 90 miles east of Los Angeles is going to be the perfect way to start the day. They are unaware that they are about to face one of the deadliest challenges of their lives, something that could happen to any one of us. Would you know what to do? By mid-morning, the temperature is almost 100 degrees. Each of them is carrying only 1 quart of water, enough for what they thought would be a 3-hour hike.
We figured, it'd take maybe a 2.5 hour, 3-hour trip.
They're walking from a nearby town to their home in Yucca Valley.
Well, we figured we'd get to Yucca by before noon at least.
But as the sun rises, the temperature soars rapidly to 120 degrees, so hot that without water, the heat can kill in a matter of hours. As the two friends continue hiking, they realize they've taken a wrong turn. Now they're lost, and to make matters worse, they're quickly running out of water. You have almost no water left. Should you drink all the water you need, ration your water, or use the water to cool your skin? Eddie and Kevin decide to drink the rest of their water. They try to continue hiking, but the afternoon sun is merciless. Their skin is so hot, it feels like it's about to blister. They've been out in the desert for 6 hours now, and Kevin and Eddie are starting to show signs of serious dehydration. Their heads are pounding as lack of water affects their brains and their entire bodies.
We started getting scared about 4 o'clock. I was just to the point where my throat started to get dry. I started to get tired more than Ed.
All they can see is wasteland. Eddie knows they need to get higher to orient themselves. They reach a rocky hill, but Kevin doesn't have the energy to climb.
All right, man, I'm gonna go get help, all right? All right, man.
So Eddie continues on alone in the suffocating heat. As the sun sets, Eddie reaches the top. He sees the lights of a town a few miles away. Shivering now, he jams his hands in his pockets and finds a book of matches. He scavenges brush and lights a fire, hoping somehow, somewhere, someone will see it and come and rescue them.
The only thing I was thinking about was getting rest for the morning to finish the hike and everything, to get out of there and everything so I can get help. That's the only thing that was on my mind after that next morning was getting help for Kevin. That's it.
Tired to the point of exhaustion, unsure whether his friend below is alive or dead, Eddie falls asleep. As the blazing sun rises for a second day, there's no sign of any rescue, and no sign whether his friend at the foot of the hill has survived the night. With the temperature rapidly rising again, Eddie has no choice but to go on. At least now he knows where he's going. But it's been 26 hours since Eddie has had a drink, and his body is so dehydrated he doesn't know if he'll ever get there. He can survive less than an hour in this heat. His body is shutting down. You are dying of dehydration. Should you use your remaining energy to search for water, forget the water and find help, or take refuge in the shade and wait there for rescue? Eddie forces himself to keep walking to get help.
We were dying pretty slowly, we didn't have water, the heat was just pounding on us, and the hot sun, that was crazy. I was thinking of saving my friend's life. That's all I thought about the whole time. I was like, I gotta get through this and save his life.
In extreme dehydration, the mind begins to hallucinate. In the midst of what he's going through, Eddie can think only of one thing: water.
I was feeling like I knew I was gonna die. Just coming down to that, I was like, wow, dude, I could die right now.
How do you find water in the middle of a desert? Locate a swarm of insects or birds? Look for dew at the base of a large cliff or rock? Or dig at the lowest point of a dry lake bed? Eddie has no idea how to find water in the desert, but he has luck on his side. He stumbles upon a small water hole. He drinks every drop.
I knew you're not supposed to drink water, you know, that you find, because it has like bacteria in it or something. I was like, I need that water real bad. That gave me enough strength to get out of there and go get help for him.
We'll return to Eddie's story in a moment. But first, let's go back to see if you answered the questions correctly. In question 1, we asked you, what should you do if you have almost no water left? The answer is, drink all the water you need.
One of the worst things you can do is to ration your water while you're in the desert. Your brain and your vital organs need that water to function properly. And people have been found dead with water still in their canteens. So, your best bet is to drink the water as you need it, find some shade, and wait for rescue.
Now let's see how you did on the second question. You are dying of dehydration. What should you do? The answer is, take refuge in the shade and wait for rescue.
Your mission is about preserving as much of your precious body water as you can. If you continue hiking in the sun, you will sweat, and that loss of precious water can kill you in a few hours. But resting in the shade may give you the several days you need to get rescued. So, your best bet is to drink the water as you need it, find some shade, and wait for rescue.
Now to our final question. How do you find water in the middle of a desert? What should you look for? The answer is, all three.
Birds and insects can be an excellent indicator of where water lies. Also, dew collects at the bottom of large rocks and large cliffs. So if you find an area like that and you dig down, you may find water there. Even a dry lake bed may provide water if you find the lowest point and dig down looking for dampness.
Back in the desert, the water that Eddie has stumbled upon saves his life. It gives him the strength that he needs to go on. And 2 hours later, he finally makes it.
I was thinking of saving my friend's life. That's all I thought about the whole time. And I was like, I gotta get through this and save his life.
Search and rescue trackers are immediately dispatched to find Kevin, but it's not until 3 a.m. that they finally find him. He's taken shelter from the sun near a rock. He's so severely dehydrated he can barely speak. Kevin hasn't had a drink of water for more than 2 days.
You know, once I saw those human beings there, I was like, I'm not gonna die. I was like, I'm gonna live pretty much.
If we would have stayed out in that sun, definitely would have cooked us and we would have been dead.
It's up that way right now. You can see all the transformers glowing. Go, get in the closet. Get in the closet.
Tornadoes strike fear in the hearts of all those who see them. It's the deadliest, most powerful wind nature ever created. Twisting at up to 300 miles per hour, a tornado can chew up almost anything in its path.
I remember glancing over to my shoulder over into this area, and then you can see the ominous black clouds and the lightning. You can just kind of trace the pattern.
There is no storm in the forecast in the heart of Tennessee. But as Kim Kelch is on her way home from her job at the hospital, the sky turns from blue to black in a matter of minutes. As Kim approaches her house, the clouds blacken out the sun. In front of her, a twister. She's terrified, not for herself, but her daughter who's home alone. You're about to become Kim Kelch. Would you know what to do? The funnel is heading straight for your house. You sprint toward your front door. Your daughter is terrified. You know you both have to take shelter, but there is no basement in the house. A tornado is bearing down on your home. What should you do? Get back in your car and drive out of the path of the tornado. Shut yourself in a room at the center of the house, or protect yourself under a bed or desk. The sound of the tornado has grown to a deafening roar.
You can hear the windows popping.
You no longer have any doubt that your house is about to take a direct hit.
That's when I told her, I said, let's just go get in the closet. And by the time I pushed her in and I closed the door, you could feel the foundation being ripped away.
You Watch in horrifying disbelief as your house is being ripped apart around you. You know that you and your daughter are next. You are about to be pulled up into a tornado. Should you crawl under sturdy furniture, get into your bathtub, or cover yourself with a mattress? The cyclonic vortex sucks mother and daughter up into its huge maelstrom of debris, wreckage, and even cars. Kim tries to hold on to her daughter, but the two are torn apart. As the giant centrifuge spins them faster and faster, time stops. They black out. Kim awakens in a sea of wreckage. Not far away is her daughter, alive. Her house and entire neighborhood are demolished, but somehow Kim and her daughter survived the 260-mile-an-hour tornado. But would you have made it? Let's stop the tape now and go back to the beginning to see how you answered the questions. A tornado is bearing down on your home. What should you do? The correct answer is either shut yourself in a center room or protect yourself under a bed or desk.
A tornado will destroy your house from the outside in, so your safest bet is a room in the center, on the ground floor, or even better, in the basement. The National Weather Service warns us that being in your car is one of the worst places you can be, and opening windows to prevent them from breaking may cause another object to enter and hurt you.
Let's see how you did on the last question. You're about to be pulled up into a tornado. What should you do? In this instance, there are two correct answers.
If you're caught in a tornado, crawl into the sturdiest piece of furniture you can find, or into your bathtub. Lie very low on the bottom, and the bathtub will act as a suit of armor for you. Kim lost consciousness entirely and was very lucky, but I want you to be prepared.
The injuries that I had received was due to the atmospheric pressure and the velocity of speed to which I traveled, which I'm told was being clocked at 260 miles an hour. Basically, my body had stopped, but my insides didn't. All I could think of was, my God, we are still here. The houses are gone, but we are still here. And it was just amazement. That's about the only word that can describe it.
When your extreme survival quiz returns, what if you're not being sucked up into the sky, but are instead plummeting back to Earth? Do you know how to come back alive? It happened to passenger Lizzie Anders, caught on home video as her plane slammed into the ocean. You're about to see this horrifying event through her eyes. What would you do if you were on that plane? Lizzie Anders is on an adventure. She has left her family behind in Britain to spend a year traveling around the world. Her journey begins in Africa, and as the plane gains altitude for her flight from Ethiopia to Kenya, everything seems normal, routine. Lizzie reads, dozes, oblivious to the fact that this flight might be her last. 20 minutes into the flight, there is a commotion toward the front of the plane. 3 men blast through the cockpit door. They make an announcement to the passengers.
Attention, this plane is under our complete control.
I'll never forget it. It was very, very short, and all it said was, we have a bomb, we don't want to use it, we're redirecting this plane. We were incredibly frightened and thinking, oh my God, oh my God.
The hijackers demand to go to Australia. The pilot tells them the plane doesn't have nearly enough fuel for the trip. But the hijackers think the crew is bluffing and force them to veer out across the Indian Ocean.
We're gonna die if we go that far. Don't give me that crap.
About an hour later, you hear another message from the cockpit.
This is your captain. We've just run out of fuel in one engine. We're about to run out of fuel in the other. Prepare for a crash landing. I could prepare, but I couldn't understand what he meant by crash landing. His crash landing to me was too big to comprehend.
You're in a plane that is about to ditch in the ocean. Should you put on your life jacket and inflate it in preparation to hit the water? Don your life jacket, but don't inflate it. Or remove your shoes and prepare to swim.
All I could do was concentrate on prepare, which was why I think, you know, the life jacket, the seatbelt, doing up as tight as I possibly could, and then inflated my life jacket.
In the cockpit, the pilot prepares for the crash. But you're coming in at over 200 miles per hour, and at that speed, hitting water is like hitting concrete.
I remember it hitting the water the first time, and there was this horrendous sort of shaking, and I remember water coming in. It was like putting your head under Niagara Falls. It just came in from the left side.
Your plane has just crashed in the ocean. What should you do? Get as far away from the fuselage as possible. Hold on to the fuselage until help arrives. Or locate the plane's inflatable rafts. The powerful impact breaks the plane into 4 pieces. Lizzie is lucky to be sitting near a break, and she's thrown clear of the plane as it rips wide open. Completely bewildered, she feels the need to swim farther away from the wreckage.
I didn't know where we were, and I was about 6 feet from the top of the sea, and I just swam up.
Lizzie surfaces near other passengers floating nearby. She suffers only cuts, bruises, and a sprained ankle. The plane has ditched near an East African island resort. Rescue boats arrive within minutes. Out of 175 souls on board the plane, only 50 survive. Lizzie is one of the lucky ones. Let's go back now to the question we asked you earlier. Your plane is about to ditch in the ocean. What should you do? The answer is, don your life jacket, but do not inflate it.
The common mistake that most people make is to inflate their life vests before they hit the water. The bulky, filled vest may prevent you from exiting the aircraft safely. So wait till you hit the water and then inflate the vest. Lizzie was very lucky. Although she had inflated her vest before the crash, she was near a large break in the fuselage when it struck the water, and she was thrown clear.
Let's go to the next question now. Your plane has just crashed into the ocean. What should you do? The answer is, get as far away from the fuselage as possible.
After you're in a crash, your biggest threat is the fuel. Fuel floats on the surface, and a piece of burning debris might ignite it. The other possibility is you will be pulled under by the massive suction of the fuselage when it sinks. So your safest place is far away from the wreckage, floating with other passengers, waiting for rescue.
As for Lizzie, she refuses to be deterred by her brush with death, and she eventually completes her round-the-world journey. But the first trip is one she'll never forget.
And it's very...
Crushed to death in a mob, it's some people's most horrifying fear. Throughout Europe and Africa, hundreds have died in sports stadium crushes. But what if you were in the crowd? Would you know how to survive? It happened in North America at a famous college football game. It's all caught on tape as the University of Wisconsin fights to upset their rival Michigan. You are about to see how a jubilant crowd can plunge you into a terrifying crush.
Alexander, intercepted by Messenger.
For Wisconsin fans like Kristen Hanisch, the game seems to be coming to a perfect close.
Everybody was ecstatic. It was a really exciting game.
Fletcher broke a couple tackles. Fletcher, touchdown.
Wisconsin wins, and the home fans go wild. The crowd rushes for the field en masse. The crush turns to
chaos.
Hundreds are being crushed as they all try to reach the field at the same time. Security guards and police are powerless to stop it. You've been pushed to the ground. There is so much weight on top of you, it's hard for you to breathe.
It was black all around me, and I knew I was on the ground. There was a couple people on top of me. There were people screaming, people crying. There